Few events are more confusing or horrific than that of the Dyatlov Pass Incident. Our story takes us back to January of 1959, in which 10 highly experienced hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institution in Russia were getting set to go on a climbing expedition. The group was led by a 23-year-old student, Igor Dyatlov. Igor and the group were preparing to hike to the summit of Gora Otorten, the mountain in the Urals region. This mountain in the Urals region had previously been unclimbed, and Igor and the crew were ready to be the first to do so. Those in the group were well equipped with the skill set, and they all had the essentials to make this a successful climb. Plenty of food, warm clothes, and specifically special training that they had received to make this a textbook hike. In the early hours of January 25th, the group set out by train to a town in the northern province. I know I'm gonna f this one up. Sverdlovsk Oblast.
Sverdlovsk Oblast.
The group then took a truck to the small town of Vizhai. Vizhai is the last settlement in the northern part of the region before the wilderness leading to the base of Gora Otorten. It was in this town that the hikers purchased loaves of bread to eat before the following day's expedition. The morning of the 27th, the group set out on their trek towards the mountain. Despite challenging weather, the group was eager to climb to the summit of the mountain, and with their special training, they were confident they had what it took to achieve this. Yuri Yudin, who had multiple health ailments, had to cut the expedition short due to fatigue and joint pain, now leaving the expedition down to 9 hikers. Little did he know that his ailments that discontinued his ability to continue the trip potentially saved his life. From this point on in the story, the only confirmed information would come from that of found diaries around the campsite that effectively the hikers logged while on their expedition. By January 21st, the crew had reached the base of the mountain and began to store some supplies to lighten the load and in preparation for their descent of the mountain and the trek back. A descent that would never come to fruition. The following day, the group made their way through the pass in hopes to reach the opposite side to set camp for that night. However, due to poor visibility as snowstorms raged on, the group lost track and wound up on the west side of the mountain. The group had realized what happened, and they decided to set camp on the slope of the western part of the pass. This left the group vulnerable to the worsening weather conditions. Prior to leaving on this expedition, Igor, the group leader, had told the sports club of the institute that he would send a telegram when the group had returned to Vizhai. It was expected that the telegram would be received no later than February 12th. However, Igor told Yuri Yudin before he discontinued his part of the trip that he expected to send the telegram later due to the holdups with the weather. He expected to send the telegram likely by the 20th of February. The 12th came and passed with no telegram. However, there was no immediate reaction, which was common because of the variables, which Igor formally stated that he expected. But by the 20th of February, with no word from the expedition group, the relatives of the hikers had demanded that a rescue party be sent out. The head of the institute agreed and started forming a rescue group made up of volunteer students and teachers. It would not be long after that the military and police would also join the operation, deploying men and helicopters to assist in the search efforts. On the 26th of February, the searchers would stumble upon the worst possible site. They found the hikers' abandoned campsite. One student had come upon the hikers' tent and said that it was torn and covered in snow, while also being empty except for all of the hikers' belongings like clothes or shoes. Upon inspection of the tent, investigators had said that the tent had appeared to be cut open from the inside, almost as if the people inside were trying to escape hastily. Around the campsite, 9 sets of footprints were found in the snow, and it appeared that all 9 sets were made by the hikers wearing nothing but socks or being barefoot. The search party followed these tracks for about a mile to the northeast. This is where they would happen upon a large pine with the remains of a small fire. It was here where the first 2 bodies of the 9 hikers would be found. They were found to be shoeless and only in underwear. As they looked above at the tree, they could see branches were snapped, signifying that one of them perhaps tried to climb the tree to get a better look at their surroundings. Now, I know you're probably thinking, why would the hikers take off their clothes and belongings back at the campsite? You know, common sense would say that you need your clothes in a winter snowstorm, to preserve your body heat, bring up your chances of survival. And you'd be right. However, in a lot of cases where people go missing in these severe cold conditions, hypothermia sets in. And when hypothermia sets in, it actually will trick the body into thinking that it's overheating, and therefore people will end up stripping down their clothes and their boots, and this is how people are found a lot of times. It was likely that multiple, if not all, the hikers were experiencing this hypothermic effect. In all different areas between the original campsite, on the slope of the mountain, and the pine that the 2 bodies were found, an additional 3 bodies were found. The way that the bodies were arranged kind of appeared like they were going to make an attempt back for the tent. So in total, 5 of the 9 hikers were found deceased at this point. It would then take searchers over 2 months to find the remaining hikers. It wasn't until May 4th that the remaining hikers were found when the spring weather began to thaw out the snow. An investigation into the remaining bodies began, and originally it was determined that they had all died due to hypothermia. Further inspection revealed that 3 of the hikers had massive trauma to their bodies. I'm not going to go too in depth with this because it is very gruesome, but all I can say is that if you're imagining how horrible it sounds, then you're likely not that far off. One of the hikers was discovered to have a massive skull fracture, and 2 of the hikers appeared to have major chest cavity trauma, the extent of the injuries having been likened to the results of a horrible car crash. The odd thing about these injuries, though, is that there were no external wounds or lacerations associated with the massive damage to the bone fractures. It was almost like a buildup of pressure internally had subjected the hikers to the extreme damage they experienced. When the remaining 4 hikers were found, they were submerged in the bottom of a creek. They were found to have tissue damage, and multiple victims were missing parts of their face, eyes, and even tongue. Now, while it's likely that parts of the bodies being subjected to the wilderness for this long meant that animals and insects probably were feeding on the remains, no one could really come up with an explanation as to why some of the victims had major visceral injuries. Certain theories had been formed, including one that perhaps the hikers met their fate to the hands of a local indigenous tribe for encroaching on their land. Evidence wouldn't support these claims, however, though, because there was no additional footprints at the scene and there was no evidence of a combat or struggle. Also, the 3 hikers who were found with the severe fractures would not indicate that combat took place because, as the investigators claimed, no humans could produce the force capable of causing those types of injuries. Other theories included a possible avalanche, military testing of parachute mines, and even an alien encounter. Of course, none of these theories have been found to be conclusive, and so at the time of their deaths, they were listed as hypothermia and an unknown compelling force. However, as recent as 2019, Russian authorities would reopen the case and explain that there were 3 possible events that could have led to the hikers' fates: an avalanche, a slab avalanche, which is another form of rapid downslope avalanche, and a hurricane. In July of 2020, the deputy head of the Urals Federal District announced the official cause of death to be an avalanche. Some researchers dispute this claim, as at the time of the findings there were no significant signs of an avalanche or the typical patterns that are made in the snow post-avalanche. A tomb was erected in Yekaterinburg, Russia, to honor the 9 hikers that were lost on the pass. There are so many theories, and the rabbit hole is very deep regarding the story, so I urge you that if you did enjoy the story, to go look further into the theories, because it truly is fascinating and disturbing. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are, so please let me know in the comments. What do you think happened up on the pass so many decades ago? Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.